Christ's followers have lived in the Holy Land for 2,000 years. They keep our faith traditions in the land where Christ was born. Today, the occupation controls every aspect of their lives. Like their Muslim neighbors, Christians are seeing their land and water taken, family members arrested, and freedom denied as Israel expands into Palestinian areas beyond its legal borders. In December 2009, Palestinian Christians issued a call asking churches around the world to put actions behind their words to end the occupation. This was called the Kairos Palestine document. The Kairos Palestine was an urgent cry to the churches from Palestinian Christians. United Methodist Kairos response was formed to answer their call. This is a broad grassroots movement to align the church's investments with its long-standing opposition to the occupation. 7 annual conferences and the General Board of Church and Society are sending a resolution to General Conference 2012. It has been approved by the General Board of Global Ministries, the Methodist Federation of Social Action, and a number of other major groups within the church. The Christian presence in the Holy Land and the future of Bethlehem are at stake. Bethlehem is being carved up into isolated pockets by the wall that annexes much of its land to Israel. Israel's illegal settlements, wall, and segregated roads divide and imprison Bethlehem and cut it off from Jerusalem. This affects many Palestinian Christians, United Methodists know in the region. They're losing their freedom, their land, their water, and their future as Christians in the Holy Land. They are witnessing the transformation of the Holy Land, where ancient ways of life are still preserved, into an endless sea of settlements, shopping centers, and industrial zones for the use of one ethnic group alone. This is a takeover of land and water by one group at the expense of all others. It's the willful destruction of Palestine and the dispossession of her people. But most of all, it's about profits. The occupation is sustained by the flow of money, weapons, and materials from around the world. Companies make donations to political candidates who support the occupation. Once elected, these officials direct public funds to Israel. Israel uses these funds to buy weapons and products from the companies to expand the occupation. The companies and their investors profit. Only principled investors can break this cycle. Couldn't we invest in the Palestinian economy? No economy can prosper without freedom of movement for workers and goods, reliable and affordable water, and access to markets and raw materials. The occupation denies all these to Palestinians. Even water is distributed by ethnic group. Israelis get 4 times as much water as Palestinians, though the main aquifer lies under the West Bank. Palestinian families suffer desperate water shortages. Israeli settlements on Palestinian land have swimming pools and green lawns. These Israeli segregated colonies are rapidly expanding. They are driving the Palestinians out of Palestine. Segregated roads divide the West Bank into isolated Bantustans, cutting communities off from each other and from schools, hospitals, and jobs. Checkpoints, which often pop up overnight, are among the hundreds of obstacles, including barriers, roadblocks, earth mounds, trenches, and gates that separate Palestinian villages from each other. Most are inside the West Bank on Palestinian land. Checkpoints between Palestinian towns make life and business impossible to plan. A 10-minute trip can take hours. Produce often spoils at checkpoints. Business owners have to pay drivers to sit for hours to get their goods to market. Walls are being built deep inside the West Bank to protect settlers living illegally on stolen land. They confine and isolate Palestinians. The walls annex the most fertile Palestinian land to Israel. Companies we invest in enable the walls, settlements, and checkpoints to continue. Caterpillar makes 50-ton bulldozers, which the Israeli army uses in warfare, often clearing the way for ground troops. An Israeli military commander referred to Caterpillar bulldozers as the key weapon in its military occupation of the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. Caterpillar's sole representative in Israel, Israel Tractors and Equipment, helps weaponize and robotize these bulldozers. ITE employees repair these weapons on the battlefield. CAT equipment has helped Israel destroy 24,813 Palestinian homes since 1967, leaving tens of thousands of Palestinians traumatized and homeless. CAT bulldozers destroy orchards, robbing Palestinians of their livelihoods. They destroy water cisterns and roadblocks. The United Methodist General Board of Pensions has said the company's policies expose Caterpillar, and by extension its shareholders, to reputational and financial risk. Asked how shareholders should hold the company accountable, Caterpillar Chairman Jim Owens said, "You can sell your stock. It's time to sell our stock in this company." Hewlett-Packard provides biometric access systems for checkpoints inside the West Bank, data storage for at least one illegal settlement, laptops and printers for the Israeli Army, and IT networks for the Israeli Navy. HP's EDS division installed biometric access systems at Israeli checkpoints located on occupied land. 2 of those checkpoints are shown below. They're not on Israel's border. They're deep inside the West Bank on Palestinian land. HP provides a municipal data storage system for the illegal settlement of Ariel, and HP ad falsely states that Ariel is located in the heart of Israel. HP coordinates all information technology for Israel's Navy. This includes ships that shell Gaza's coast, intercept humanitarian aid boats, and kill fishermen in Gaza's own territorial waters. Motorola Solutions provides a mobile communications network for the Israeli Army in the occupied territories. It provides vehicle-mounted antennas to the occupation forces. Motorola also installs surveillance systems around illegal Israeli settlements. Motorola's Moto Eagle surveillance system is on Israel's wall, deep in the West Bank. Our pension board and other United Methodist groups have engaged with these companies for years without measurable results. They've done letters, phone calls, meetings, and shareholder resolutions. The UMKR resolution seeks immediate divestment from these companies so our denomination will not continue to profit from their involvement with the occupation. A small number of other companies in our board portfolios are also involved with the occupation. The UMKR resolution urges UN boards and agencies to engage with those companies and, if they fail to change their practices within 2 years, to divest. The occupation harms Israelis as well as Palestinians. What can we do? It's time to turn our words into action. It's time for divestment. Selective divestment is not divestment from Israel, divestment from Israeli companies, or divestment from companies that do business in Israel. Selective divestment is a decision not to profit from specific companies that play a documented role in this occupation. It's a way of stating we will not make money from practices that violate our basic values and beliefs. Every investor has that right and that responsibility. Rabbi Brant Rosen has asked, when will we find the wherewithal to say out loud that this policy of home demolitions, checkpoints, evictions, increased Jewish settlements, and land expropriations is inhumane and indefensible? At the very least, will we be ready to put our money where our moral conscience is? Today we ask the same questions of the United Methodist Church.